going to be an intense battle. Like you said, Lem, that Glamora is going to be a key piece to be able to possibly break through this Raging Bolt balance team that Neil is running. Over on Neil's side, we'll lead with Rillaboom and the Qianpao. On Charlie's side, we'll be leading with Fluttermane and the Glamora.
Yeah, so the Glamora, no surprise to see it immediately on the field. It threatens so many of Neil's Pokemon. Obviously, both the ones on the field right now, it can threaten huge damage against with Meteor Beam or Sludge Bomb. And that continues to a lot of Pokemon that could be in the back for Neil, like the Incineroar or the Ogerpon Heartflame. And besides that, the Toxic Spikes that if Glamora gets hit are also pretty impactful. You don't want to bring in your Raging Bolt and start trying to click Calm Mind once it is already Toxic Poison. That's not a recipe for success. Toxic Spikes can also be used to break Qianpao's Focus Sash, so they can have a really big impact in this match. But at the same time, Glamora, not the fastest Pokemon, is vulnerable to Fake Out, could get taken off the field without actually doing so much damage. So I think a lot of this match could revolve around how well Charlie can get value out of that Glamora.
Qianpao Terrastalizes becomes the stellar type to give it some more offensive options here. Here's a Sucker Punch from that Qianpao, will land into the Fluttermane and is not able to get the one-hit KO. Fluttermane hangs on with just a sliver of health, and here's a Dazzling Gleam to retaliate, bringing Qianpao down into the red, but here's Rillaboom with a high horsepower, connects into Glamora and picks up the one-hit KO there.
Yeah, so you can see the exact speed problems that Glamora has moving after the Rillaboom there, and Rillaboom just has the necessary coverage move with high horsepower to get a 4x super effective hit and KO Glamora. That does come with a layer of Toxic Spikes down, but only one layer is something you can at least try to balance out with the Grassy Terrain down. Charlie only avoids like a devastating turn because Fluttermane was able to hang on through that stellar boosted Sucker Punch and get a Dazzling Gleam down. That chips Rillaboom a little bit, but does a lot of impactful damage to Qianpao, but otherwise a really strong turn for Neil. And because Qianpao's still around, that Dazzling Gleam, while it was a lot of damage back, doesn't necessarily change Neil's field position, can still use a priority from either Rillaboom or Qianpao to threaten this Fluttermane. Doesn't matter if Tornadus tries to support with Tailwind. Though both of these Pokemon, if a Bleak Wind Storm were to come down, that's big damage, and a Rillaboom would be able enough to finish a KO onto Qianpao. Of course, Tornadus has to first get through a possible Ice Spinner from this Qianpao that would still be Stellar Terra boosted because it was the Dark one that was burnt last turn.
Charlie now will opt to Terrastalize his side of the field. The Tornadus is going to Terrastalize into the Steel type here, trying to remove that weakness to the Ice Spinner from the Qianpao.
You can see Neil's reaction. You have to imagine this is what he expected. Will he just go straight on the offense against it?
Fluttermane protects itself here. How is Neil going to react to this as Rillaboom uses Grassy Glide, trying to pick off the Fluttermane over on Charlie's side into that Protect, though. So here goes the Qianpao, yep, opting straight for the Sacred Sword, hitting right into that Steel-type Tornadus, and that is big damage. Not enough for the one-hit KO. It will hang on. Qianpao will take damage from the Rocky Helmet, and here's a Bleak Wind Storm. Does it connect on everything? No, Rillaboom dodges the attack, but it does get the KO on Qianpao, but man, it would be nice to get some damage down on that Rillaboom.
Yeah, just such a back and forth turn. Neil correctly guesses the Terrestrialization, lands the Sacred Sword, but misses the KO. The Tornadus trained to be so bulky to be able to take a Stellar Terrestrialized boosted, super effective Sacred Sword, but that cashes in the Bleak Wind Storm. It's enough to get the KO on Qianpao, but it misses into Rillaboom, leaving that Rillaboom so healthy. And now you have two extremely low health Pokemon on Charlie's side of the field. Neither of them is going to be able to take a Grassy Glide, likely. The Tornadus is going, because it lost its flying typing, is going to start healing from the Grassy Terrain. We saw how physically defensive it is. It might be able to get to the point where it can take a Grassy Glide, but it would take a bit. And meanwhile, Incineroar can also support with Fake Out into Tornadus, not a Covert Cloak Tornadus. It would be able to land and just partner next to a Grassy Glide. So it's going to be difficult for Charlie to find a situation where he can actually deal damage again in this match. It's going to depend on what that fourth Pokemon in the back is.
Yeah, so it's a tough spot right now. You don't want to be on the side of the field with two heavily damaged Pokemon and the other side of the field having access to two priority moves right now. So Charlie has to figure out a way to get around this here, as Tornadus will protect itself. Does not want to flinch from the possibility of a Fake Out or get picked off with a Grassy Glide, and Fluttermane actually gets a double Protect there, so trying to hang on for this turn, burns his turn of Fake Out here, as well as another turn of that Grassy Terrain. So this is going to be a dead turn for Neil. Will not be able to get any damage out, as Incineroar shows Will-O-Wisp trying to burn and possibly punish anything that would switch into that slot.
Yeah, Neil trying to catch a switch with Fluttermane leaving and get a burn. Expecting the Tornadus to just protect itself and not get faked out. That expectation is correct, and Tornadus protects itself, but Fluttermane also goes for the double protect and gets it, so nothing happens that turn. That leaves the time for a little bit of Grassy Terrain recovery onto Fluttermane and Tornadus, and a little bit of poison damage onto Incineroar, but it doesn't greatly change the position. Fake Out is gone. Tornadus is a little bit more free to attack. It's starting to get enough health where Grassy Glide isn't a sure thing with maybe one more turn of Grassy Terrain recovery. Fluttermane, you have to wonder if it is just going to be sacrificial at this point. It already was greatly risked. The last turn could have just failed that double protect and gone down to Grassy Glide. Charlie prioritizing the Pokemon in the back, being able to come in healthy after this, but it's going to have to fight a mystery Pokemon that he still doesn't expect.
Yep, and Rillaboom picks off the Fluttermane. A little bit of more damage on top of that with a critical hit, as now Tornadus will be able to move, will use Bleak Wind Storm, connects on both Pokemon here, brings Rillaboom down about 50%, chunks away at Incineroar, and here's a knockoff from that Incineroar into that Tornadus. Gonna knock off that Rocky Helmet while taking some recoil back, and now it's down to Charlie's last Pokemon versus 3 more Pokemon over on Neil's side of the field.
Yeah, you have to hope it's the Chi-Yu, something with spread damage that might be able to fight its way through these Pokemon. The Incineroar is whittled down pretty significantly now after taking a Bleak Wind Storm, a couple turns of poison damage, and a Rocky Helmet hit. But no, the Urshifu single strike is going to be doing single target damage. No spread moves. It needs at minimum 3 attacks to clean through this game, and you have to imagine enough damage would come back in the meantime to make that impossible.
Yeah, Urshifu does have the Focus Sash, so it will be able to at least survive 1 attack, but will it be able to get KOs and kind of get around this perfectly? Here it is, Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom will break that Focus Sash there, and Urshifu will retaliate with a Wicked Blow, gets the KO on that Rillaboom, but of course now Incineroar will be able to move here. Incineroar will go for a knockoff into that slot, brings it down to about 50%, but Urshifu, not exactly the bulkiest Pokemon, so it really depends on what the Incineroar has to deal with it, as well as what Neil's last Pokemon is, but it could be tough for this Urshifu to claw back.
Yeah, the knockoff is interesting there. Neil maybe not thinking he has to risk hitting a Will-O-Wisp, which would have probably done more damage over time and really mitigated the damage coming in against this Raging Bolt, but you can see why. Raging Bolt, it can just kind of click a Dragon Pulse this turn. There's nothing that this Urshifu, with Terrestrialization already spent, with no boosting item, can do to try to one-hit KO this Raging Bolt. If you can't one-hit KO this Raging Bolt, then more damage is going to come back. Maybe it's bulky enough to take a Dragon Pulse. That is Urshifu's best hope at this point. You can see how little the damage coming from the other side is with just knockoff. Here comes the Wicked Blow, not even half to the Raging Bolt. The Dragon Pulse coming back through.
And that's enough to get the KO there. So Neil Patel wraps up game 1 here, knocking out that Urshifu. So Neil Patel, 1 win away from making to the Masters Top 4, that semifinal that he really wants to be able to break through after having 3 consecutive top 8s here.
Yeah, that game was the first couple turns of fireworks. Pokemon were just going down left and right. Neither player making extremely safe players, both having to take some risks. Charlie leaves the Glimmora hanging, and it just goes down to high horsepower. We talked about how big of an impact it could have on this game, but in the end, it had no impact, going down before it was KO'd, and that's devastating for his chances to win. Neil was 1 turn ahead with other moves like the Sacred Sword into the Tornadus, and just built that lead that let him play a little bit more safely towards the close of that game, and dealing with Charlie's last couple Pokemon.
Yeah, so again, Charlie's going to have to play around these first turns carefully. Does not want this to be repeated where so much damage was dealt by Neil on the first turn. I mean, getting the Glimmora knocked out immediately, devastating. Getting Fluttermane brought down into Grassy Glide range made you have to play so much more defensively, and then Neil calling it with the Sacred Sword into the Terrestrialized Tornadus, that same turn that it Terrestrializes, pretty big as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing to take from this game is that despite it being pretty one-sided, Neil dominating, that was because of those reads, those unsafe plays that worked out. It doesn't represent like an insurmountable team advantage in this game. A few things go differently. Maybe Glimmora on turn 1 uses a Grass Terrestrialization to take resisted damage from high horsepower and just Meteor Beams the Gin Power, Sludge Bombs the Rillaboom, and this game looks very different from that point on. And so it is just back to the drawing board. Charlie is down 1-0. He's going to have to get it right more than Neil is going to have to get it right to win the rest of this match, but he's by no means out of it. No,
Charlie has the pieces. It's just a matter of whether or not Charlie can navigate it, or if Neil will be able to hit those reads again in this game. But it's mind game now if you think about it. Like if Neil is willing to make those slightly more dangerous plays, it could work out again, it could not, who knows. It could go either way as the leads are sent out. It is going to be Chien-Pao and Raging Bolt over on Neil's side of the field, while Tornadus and the Glamora over on Charlie's side of the field. So an adjustment here from Charlie and an adjustment from Neil as well.
Yeah, once again, a really critical turn for both players to try to understand where the Chien-Pao should attack and where it is going to attack. If Charlie can diffuse the damage coming from Chien-Pao with a Terastallization or a Protect, this turn is going to look a lot better from him. But if it gets a big KO, things look a lot worse.
Tornadus on Charlie's side will set up Tailwind now, so Glamora will be able to go for an attack this turn. It is going to be the Meteor Beam. It is going to boost its special attack here and throw out some damage onto this Raging Bolt. But Raging Bolt's a very bulky Pokemon. Raging Bolt hangs on with just a little bit of health, and here's an Ice Spinner from that Chien-Pao. Connects into that Tornadus slot, gets the one-hit KO, will take some recoil, but most importantly, breaks that Focus Sash on that Chien-Pao.
Yeah, the Ice Spinner over Icicle Crash, meaning that it's a contact move that breaks Focus Sash, is pretty important to this match. Means that Chien-Pao only needs one hit likely to go down. The trade of Tailwind for Tornadus is probably in Charlie's favor. Now has those last 3 turns of Tailwind to operate with 2 big attackers on the field, but he does have to worry about priority. Both Raging Bolt and Chien-Pao could throw out priority moves. If both of those priority moves land into Fluttermane, Fluttermane will go down. A Fairy Terastallization can try to get away from that. If you can resist the Sucker Punch and be bulky enough to take the Thunderclap, it could work out. Of course, Glamora also has to watch out for priority moves. And another aspect of this, Glamora with the Power Herb already spent may not actually be able to KO Chien-Pao. At +1, the Sludge Bomb could be close. You don't have a rock move to hit into Chien-Pao anymore.
Yeah, so tough turn right here. Charlie needs to be able to take advantage of these next couple turns of Tailwind. Again, that Chien-Pao Focus Sash being broken, going to be pretty important here as there will be Terastallization happening here. It is going to be the Fluttermane Terastallizing into that Fairy type to try to get away from that neutral Sucker Punch, trying to resist that Sucker Punch that may be landing into that slot. We saw how much it did after the Chien-Pao Terastallized last time, but Chien-Pao can tend to just protect this turn, does not want to get knocked out just yet, as Raging Bolt will also protect. Just trying to see what Charlie's going to do, as well as stall out 1 turn of Tailwind.
Yeah, stall out 1 really crucial turn of Tailwind. The downside when Tornadus is traded for a single Tailwind is that means you have 3 turns to act inside of it. One of those just get burnt by a double Protect, and then once out of Tailwind, things are going to look even more in Neil's favor. So Charlie now, though, has the next turn to really capitalize on this. There won't be Protects coming out, most likely. There could be switches trying to diffuse the damage, but this is Charlie's chance to capitalize it and try to even the Pokemon score, because right now, he's down a Pokemon, Glamora's damaged, Raging Bolt's damaged. There's pretty much a whole Pokemon advantage for Neil. But with the speed control in his favor, the Sucker Punch doing resisted damage to Fluttermane, that's not probably going to be low enough to put it in Thunderclap range. This is critical. It's not even close. And that means the Dazzling Gleam can come out and KO this Chien-Pao.
Yep, will connect with both Pokemon. Gets the double knockout right here. Glamora will be attacking into nothing here. So now it's going to come down to Neil's final 2 Pokemon. Charlie still has 1 more Pokemon hidden in the back, but most importantly is trying to take advantage of these Tailwind turns. So there's a Sludge Bomb, but it's going to fail because there's no other target on Neil's side of the field. So Charlie has the pieces here. How are these next few turns of Tailwind going to play out? Urshifu over on Neil's side will take the field, as well as Rillaboom to take the field. So the final 2 Pokemon over on Neil's side, Rillaboom and Urshifu.
Yeah, more priority options. You have Aqua Jet and Grassy Glide. That would probably just pick up 2 KOs. An Aqua Jet into Glamora, a Grassy Glide into Fluttermane. No Terastallization to help with it. You can't protect the Glamora. Makes it very difficult. Of course, there's also only 1 turn left in Tailwind. That's going to be a problem for Glamora, which we already saw is slower than Rillaboom. If we ever got to that point where Neil isn't just safe to click priority attacks, it's looking like the priority that Neil has makes that trade of Tornadus to get the speed control just so much less valuable if you're still moving second every turn. After the Tailwind happened, we saw a double Protect turn, then a turn where both of Neil's Pokemon moved before being attacked, and now we may see another turn where both of Neil's Pokemon move before getting attacked.
And here's the Aqua Jet connects into the Glamora, gets the KO right there, will drop Toxic Spikes, but that's not going to matter at all because no other Pokemon are going to be switching in. So knockout right there from Neil's side. Again, so much priority being used over on Neil's side of the field, and here's a Grassy Glide boosted by the terrain. Fluttermane cannot hang on at all. It's not physically bulky, and it's already taken so much damage, so Fluttermane will get knocked out. And again, it's going to come down to Charlie's last
Yeah, but now without Tailwind, we're going to be down between the speed comparison between these two Urshifus. You have to imagine Charlie's still may be the fastest thing on the field, but once again, the same problem. It's only a single target attacker. It can only put damage in one place at a time. Charlie, no pivoting on the last turn, just opted to get into this endgame, but close combat isn't even enough to KO Urshifu.
Close combat does damage to Urshifu, but does not get the KO. The defenses will drop. Urshifu on Neil's side will get a close combat, bring it down Focus Sash, but here it is. Rillaboom will just connect with another move, and it looks like Neil Patel is going to be moving on to your semifinals here, your top 4.
Yeah, just a really well-played match to Neil, understanding the advantages he had, pressing the offense, not trying to slow things down and play with Raging Bolt, but just going out, attacking every turn, using the priority in his advantage to cleanly take 2 games and the top 8 match.
Yeah, so well played from Neil right there. You know, game 2, Charlie was able to pick up speed advantage because of that Tailwind, but